fiction. Welcome back to Short and Nerdy Nonfiction with Connlyn Sinclair, where everything is short, everything is nerdy, and I'm Connlyn Sinclair. Today I am going to make a statement that will blow your mind and give me a lot of angry fan mail, because every time I say this I get a lot of angry comments. But I believe firmly that Shinji Ikari is both a better written character, a better conceived character, and honestly, a much better role model, stronger character. I don't know how you phrase this, but I think Shinji is just better on all counts than Simon the Digger. I just do. And I've said this several times. I get a lot of hate each time. But I think a lot of it is that Gurren Lagann was pretty bad. I'm going to be honest about that. I say this because my introduction to the mech genre was Evangelion. I was a fan of Nadia's Secret of Blue Water. I got into Anno from that. Then I watched Evangelion. And then from there, I got into, the other major classic mech series. Gunbuster, Big O, Patlabor, Code Geass. I've seen a little bit of Robotech. That's an interesting one. I've seen G Gundam, Witch from Mercury. So I've seen a decent amount of mech stories. And Gurren Lagann and, really only Gurren Lagann fills the stereotype of the macho mech franchise. Now, I know, G Gundam gets a lot, the idea that G Gundam is so macho and so dude bro, but no, Gurren Lagann is dude bro. Gurren Lagann is entirely dude bro, and it doesn't have many redeeming qualities because it's so dude bro. And I think the comparisons that get made between Evangelion and Shinji and Gurren Lagann and Simon the Digger get made a lot by dude bros who don't really see how creepily dude bro Gurren Lagann is. I think we have to go back a second, and what I call the Gainax trigger formula, which is the Gunbuster, Evangelion, Diebuster, Little Witch Academia. They all have the basic format. You have the mentor character, you have the protagonist, and then you have the rival who is sometimes the love interest. In the case of, Shinji and Asuka have the rival / love interest dynamic. Diana and Akko have the rival / love interest dynamic. A lot of people ship Noriko and Young. I don't think there's much canon evidence for that. But she is the rival, and they become friends. And it kind of goes into the idea that later became the Asuka-Shinji love interest rival combination dynamic. But when we're talking about Shinji's mentor character, certainly Misato, and Misato certainly isn't a healthy role model. I think it's very drilled into us by Anno that Misato is a terrible role model. She thinks sex will solve everything. Sex and violence, and any combination of sex and violence will achieve her goals. At the same time, she's actually a pretty good role model, because she is the deuteragonist of Evangelion, and a lot of her attempts to encourage Shinji work. I mean, the weird sexual stuff is uncomfortable, but a lot of her other stuff tends to work. She does see herself, I think, as an older sister slash surrogate mom slash potential girlfriend to him. And a lot of that is love and support. Is it unhealthy? Is it weird? It is love and support. And she does manage to get Shinji to do it, to I don't want to use the term man up really, but to man up and fight. And the scene in End of Evangelion of her doing that is famous, and she does get him to do it. And she shouts and she shakes him, and he goes and he fights and he loses, and that's End of Evangelion. But then you have Gurren Lagann, which tries to make Kamina an anti-Misato. He's supposed to be the world's greatest role model, just the greatest dude ever. The big brother extraordinaire. He punches Simon in the face. I mean, just completely physically abuses him, smacks him hard in the face. And, the guys who made Gurren Lagann apparently thought this was so manly, just so macho. And he's punching him. A big brother who hits his little brother in the face to get him to fight. And then Simon's like, yeah, my head's clear. You physically abused me, and now I'm going to go and I'm going to fight bad guys. And Misato is just shaking Shinji and shouting at him. You see where I'm going with this? That's a complete difference in role models here. That's just blatantly out there. Misato is still operating on gunbuster coach logic. Strategize, do something crazy, and get the kids to fight for their own beliefs, get the kids to fight for the sake of something they should believe in, save the world, save humanity. And Kamina's just all like, well, you don't have any reason to fight, but I think you should fight. Believe in me that believes in you. And all the Gurren Lagann dude bros applaud this. Think, yeah, so macho, so great. And then we get to the respective ends of each series. And it's like, okay, so after all this dude bro-ness, Simone gives up. He just gives up. The end of Gurren Lagann is that he is a homeless loner who has no friends, no family, and could have saved his wife, but didn't. So he could have saved his wife, and he didn't, and he's a homeless nobody whose last line is that he's a homeless nobody, and that's great. And then flip it over, and the ending of Evangelion, at least in the TV series, is that Shinji, when presented with the power of God in instrumentality, recreates the entire universe. And we get the whole, toast Ray set up where Ray hits him with the toast in her mouth, and he and Asuka are childhood friends. And, they turned that whole setting into Evangelion Angelic Days. Anno didn't write it, obviously, but it was an official comic. It was an official comic, which is a canon epilogue in which Shinji and Asuka are in the universe which Shinji created with the power of God, and are happy-go-lucky childhood friends whose greatest problem in life is that other people have confessed to them, and life is pretty much just an Archie comic story in which aliens happen to be attacking. And, it ends with Canon, Asha, they're living together, they're married, Shinji gets the girl by trying to change the world and change reality and fight the power. And Simone, who's all about being a dude bro, fights the power, doesn't fight the power, he gives up. And we're supposed to think, or I don't think we're supposed to think this, I think Evangelion Angelic Days, and it certainly makes it clear, and it's an official comic that Gainax and Anno approved, that Shinji and Asuka are going to get together and be happy, and that's their ending. And then Trigger just said, no, Simone is a man. He's so manly, he's a homeless bum in the middle of the desert, and his wife is dead because he didn't want to save her. And I've said this several times, but no, Simone loved his wife. He was so devoted to her. And it's a great romance. And Simone and Nia are OTP. And I'm like, he let her die. And that's supposed to be a better love story than Shinji and Asuka? No, I don't see it. I just don't. It's not happening. It's just not happening. And all the dude bros are like, this is great. This is, Simone and Kami are role models. They're so badass. Death Battles has them going up against the Green Lantern. I mean, it's nonsense. The Gurren Lagann fan base is nonsense. They somehow went from a halfway decent anime into shonen battle nonsense. And it's just, but I think I've argued pretty well in this video. Shinji is the better role model on all accounts. And I don't think Anno even believes that anymore. Rebuild of Evangelion was just damn weird. But Rebuild of Evangelion ends with Shinji and Asuka together again. You can't make this crap up. The whole last, movie thing that they ran again has them get together. Obviously, Anno thinks that this is fate. I don't think Gurren Lagann's a dead fandom. I guess Anno had the last laugh.